My favorite like post uncoupling fights that we ever had was when I can't remember like what triggered. I was basically to you. I was like, look, I don't want to know about situations of like who you're hooking up with. And you were like, I'm a little curious, but like I also don't really want to know.
That was on the rock on the mountain. I remember this.
Yeah. And then you were like, well, what about this woman that I met after the ISTA training and we spent a day together in Europe? And I was like, that's exactly what I just told you I didn't want to know.
I was trying to test out what you want, like how much do you want to know versus not know.
I was like, I just told
Nothing.
you.
I wanna know
I
nothing.
don't want to know nothing. And then we got in this like great fight where I was like, well, I can't believe that you hooked up with someone like 2 weeks after we uncoupled. And you were like, I only went to the ISTA training because you threw a party to make out with all of our friends and told me not to come. And instead of sitting around and being like depressed, I decided to go to a Tantra training. And then I met that person and I was like, you're right. I was like, you're right.
You explained that really well. That's exactly how it happened.
And like, that's uncomfortable too. And I guess like, the thing is like, again, I guess like one of the main themes of this episode is like, there's no way to avoid the discomfort. Like you could like, you're like stalk your ex on Instagram or block them or like, you'll hear, like, it's like, there's this inherent discomfort in the fact that like your ex is gonna fall in love again and be with someone and date people and all of that. And we've had a lot of it's been challenging. And one of the things that I remember, so I then went to an ISTA training that fall. And and they put you like, you can't have your own room and whatever, they just stick you in a room. So I'm in a room with like these two other women. And it happened to be that woman that you were connecting with at that very same play party that we already discussed. And I was just like being myself the first 2 days. And I'm like joking and laughing and playing and all that. And she like takes me to the side and she was like, Kate, just so you know, like me and Andrew, like we've been sleeping together and like it may turn into something more serious. And like to her credit, she was like, it would feel really weird if like whatever things blossom between us and I never told you. Like that would feel strange. And I was like, like of all the trainings, I'm in Colombia, in Cartagena. How did I end up as like roommates with like...
That's very random.
It was so random. And again, like I think the thing that was my learning curve on all of that is instead of going into all this story or like hating on her, whatever, I was like, oh man, like the truth of this is just like, it just hurts. Like it hurts. It hurts feeling you being with someone else. It hurts that she's here. It hurts that I don't have like my own Tantra retreat without someone that's making me feel pain, And then I had this like beautiful and also like hilariously devious moment in my own head where, she came to me. I actually moved out of the room, which was like, it was actually really important for me because I'm someone who usually will do the hardest thing. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay in the hut and we're going to process and I'm going to cry. And I was like, what feels like self-honor right now is like leaving the hut and going and staying with my friend. And the teacher was like, I don't think you can leave the hut. And I was like, I'm going to leave the hut. And I'm an adult. I'm an adult. I've got this. So I just like packed up my stuff and we convinced this other woman to switch places with me. And I just moved out. And so the woman that you were connecting with intimately at the time, she came and she was like, look, like have all this fear that you're going to like turn everyone against me. You're going to like throw me out of the community, that I'll be hated. And I was like, look, like I would never do that. Like you haven't done anything wrong, like literally nothing wrong. And there's no part of me that would do that to you. And I was like, but it hurts. Like it hurts to see you. It hurts to have you here. And so like, I'll take some space. Like I need space and I'm going to be processing on my own. And me and her weren't close friends or anything like that. So I was like, I'm just going to take that time for myself. She was like, I just don't want you to destroy my life. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I would never do that. And then this like really great voice came and it was like, but I could. And I like got this like kick out of it. It was just like, it was like, okay, like let's like honoring the part of us that's like in me, like I'm going to do the good thing, the right thing, the loving thing, of course. And then of course there's these like very primal, very petty parts of us that get stirred up by sexuality, by having to face these situations, by being in pain. And so there's just this like, humanity in all of that. And I remember at the time, one of the most healing and beautiful things for me in that was FaceTiming you, like in Cartagena, and being like, hey, this thing's happening and she's here and it hurts and it's sad and I miss you and I miss us. And I know it's right for us not to be together. And you were so loving and so beautiful. And I actually remember that being so good. And I think sometimes like the greatest pain in the uncoupling is actually like disconnecting from your heart. And I remember how beautiful that whole process was, to stay in my heart with you, to stay in my heart in the process, and to stay in my hurt and also like have boundaries. I think that's important too, to say like, we're not saying you should have zero boundaries, or like I couldn't have you not come to a party if I really needed that space, or couldn't put up a boundary with her and move out of the hut. It's like listening to boundaries and what self-care is like, and then also staying connected in the heart whenever you can.
Yeah, it's really interesting how like life just like even when we were apart, it's almost like life was throwing us sort of back together in connection. Like that woman being at your same event was completely random, and it feels like a lot of people when they like uncouple, their lives sort of start like going off in completely different directions, and our life just like went steamrolled like on dead straight train tracks, like right next to each other. Like the spiritual processes we were going through, even like the Istas, the same type of practices that we were doing, everything stayed really connected, just as connected as we were being emotionally. And yeah, for me, it was like, I sometimes wonder, I get in my head of thinking, how healthy was that? But when I feel into my body, it was really healthy for us to really go through that. And sometimes I even miss a little bit that that pain and that sadness and that connection that we had through the breakup, because it was powerful. And it even though it was like there was a lot of sadness and pain, it was almost, I mean, it was the year that my father died as well, but it was the most alive I've ever felt in my life that whole year.
Yeah.
That sadness, that pain, that love, I was alive. And I mourn that a little bit sometimes now that I'm like a little bit more processed, or what someone might call over, like some of the pain. Like I don't feel as much anymore, and I miss that in a way.
Yeah. It was beautiful. So much like opportunity for realness and intimacy, I think we can forget that sometimes by being like, it should be like this or it should be like that, instead of being like, what's the...
Yeah, we're just optimizing for pleasure, but like pain and deep emotion and feeling and connection when it's hard is so enriching.
Totally.
For life. Yeah.